August 1944. The guns of Normandy had fallen silent, and General George S. Patton's tanks were roaring east through France at a speed no army in history had ever matched. Then, suddenly, they stopped. Not because of enemy fire, not because of mud or weather. They stopped because the world's most aggressive army had run out of fuel. Every tank, every truck, every jeep, dead machines scattered across the French countryside. And in that desperate pause, one exhausted truck driver pulled off what soldiers later called an impossible trick, a single act of defiance and improvisation that saved Patton's Blitz from running dry. Summer 1944. After weeks of brutal hedgerow fighting, the Allies had broken out of Normandy. Operation Cobra had torn a hole in the German line, and Patton's newly activated Third Army surged through it like a flood. In just 2 weeks, they advanced hundreds of miles, liberating Avranches, Le Mans, and Chartres, outpacing every supply plan the United States Army had ever drawn. But speed came with a price. Each of Patton's armored divisions devoured 700 tons of supplies per day. Fuel alone, nearly 400,000 gallons. At that rate, even victory could starve itself. The railway system was still wrecked by Allied bombing. Ports were jammed with wreckage, bridges were blown, and the trucks that did exist were scattered, overloaded, and wearing out. By late August, Patton's spearheads were running on fumes. Officers began siphoning gas from wrecked German vehicles, from abandoned ambulances, from anything that had wheels and a tank. If the fuel didn't arrive soon, the advance would stall, and with it, the chance to crush the retreating Wehrmacht before it reached the Rhine. The logistics officers at Supreme Headquarters came up with a radical idea, a rolling artery of trucks dedicated solely to the front. No passengers, no detours, no civilian traffic, running day and night in an endless loop. They called it the Red Ball Express, named after the red circled insignia painted on each vehicle, and the old American rail term for express freight. Over 6,000 trucks thundered across northern France, from Normandy's beaches to Patton's forward dumps, more than 400 miles. Fuel, ammunition, rations, and spare parts flowed like lifeblood. The routes were strictly one way, eastbound for loaded trucks, westbound for empties. Drivers had 11 rules: never stop, never turn off the road, never use headlights at night, and never, ever disobey orders. And yet, under constant strain, those rules would soon bend. Among the thousands behind the wheel was Private Thomas Barlow, a 23-year-old mechanic from Louisiana. He'd been drafted in 1942, trained to fix engines, not to drive them through war zones. Now he was assigned to the 3918 Quartermaster Truck Company, one of the all-black units tasked with keeping Patton's army alive. They called themselves the Gasoline Cowboys. Barlow's job: deliver jerry cans and 55-gallon drums of fuel to the forward dumps outside Chartres. He drove a 2.5-ton GMC Jimmy, a steel workhorse that rattled like a tin can and smelled of gasoline, sweat, and fear. The work was brutal. Drivers went 18 to 20 hours without rest. They slept sitting upright, engines idling, cigarettes glowing behind blackout hoods. Enemy fighters sometimes strafed the convoys. Roadside mines turned asphalt into firestorms. But worst of all were the traffic jams. A single breakdown could block 100 trucks, choking the supply flow while tanks at the front waited dry. On August 29th, Barlow's convoy hit one of those gridlocks outside Alençon, Ahead of him, miles of stalled vehicles. Behind him, nothing but darkness and the low rumble of engines. The radio crackled, reports that Patton's spearhead was almost out of fuel. Barlow knew that if those drums didn't reach the dump by dawn, the entire advance might stop. He took a breath and made a choice. He left the convoy. To grasp the risk, you have to understand the Red Ball rules. No truck left its assigned lane, no truck broke the one-way system, and no truck driver made creative decisions. The route was a war within a war, run by military police, engineers, and dispatchers who punished disobedience harshly. But Barlow had a mechanic's instinct and a Louisiana backroad sense of dirt. He remembered an old farm road the engineers had labeled impassable. It snaked through fields and forests for 20 miles, cutting across to the supply dump. If he could make it through, he'd arrive hours ahead of the convoy. If he failed, he'd vanish into the mud. He shifted into low gear, gripped the wheel tight, and turned his truck off the main road. The Red Ball Express vanished in his mirrors. Rain started. At first a drizzle, then a sheet of water that turned the dirt road into a swamp. Barlow's headlights were dimmed to cat eyes, slits of light barely reaching 10 feet ahead. He could feel the tires sink deeper into the muck with every mile. Then the worst, a bridge blown out by retreating Germans. The stream below was shallow, but slick with clay. No way across, at least not for anyone else. Barlow climbed out, soaked. He looked at the fallen timbers, then at the cargo. He spotted a heavy tree trunk nearby. He chained it beneath the front axle as a makeshift sled, using it to spread the truck's weight. Gear in first, engine growling. He eased forward. For 30 minutes, the truck groaned, slid, and threatened to tip. Mud covered the windshield. The drums clanged. Then, with a cough of exhaust, the GMC crawled up the far bank. Barlow had crossed, but now one tire was shredded, another nearly bald. He drove the last 10 miles on 3 wheels and faith. When he finally rolled into the forward dump at dawn, soldiers stared in disbelief. They had just reported 0 fuel remaining. Barlow jumped down from the cab, clothes black with grease, and shouted, "You boys still thirsty?" Within an hour, tanks were refueling, engines roaring again. The line moved east, straight into the history books. That single load, barely 500 gallons, bought Patton the time he needed to keep his Blitz alive. By the end of that week, the Third Army had reached the Seine, closing the Falaise pocket and trapping over 50,000 German soldiers. Historians agree, without that momentum, the Allies might have faced a winter stalemate west of the Rhine. Barlow's name never appeared in dispatches. In official records, he was just Driver Truck Company 3918. But the men who served with him told the story for decades after. The night one driver broke the rules and saved an army. And his story was far from unique. Thousands of black drivers did the same, improvised, risked, decided. They fought not with rifles, but with steering wheels. From August 25th to November 16th, the Red Ball Express carried 412,000 tons of supplies, fuel, ammunition, and rations, along routes up to 700 miles round trip. 3/4 of its 23,000 drivers were African American, working in segregated units that rarely saw recognition or rest. They called it Patton's Lifeline. Patton himself once told his staff, "My men can fight without food. They cannot fight without gasoline." Without those convoys, his armor would have died in the fields of France. Even as the Allies advanced toward Germany, the cost was staggering. Hundreds of wrecked trucks, countless injuries, dozens of drivers killed on duty, some crushed under loads, others lost to exhaustion on the road. Yet they kept driving. Because for every battle hero, there had to be 10 unsung heroes making sure he had gas in his tank. Wars are remembered for their generals, their victories, their famous speeches. But behind every headline was a man in an oil-stained uniform, gripping a steering wheel at 3 a.m., following a faint red ball painted on a road sign toward the front. Private Thomas Barlow never led a charge. He never fired a shot in anger. But one night, soaked to the bone, he refused to stop. He turned down a forbidden road and kept an army moving. One man, one truck, one impossible trick that made the difference between a stalled offensive and a living legend. If you want to hear more untold stories like this, subscribe to the channel and keep history alive with us.